What's up, everybody? Welcome to Just Because Gaming. My name is Michael.
I'm Ray.
Thanks for joining us. Before we get into it, as always, make sure you hit that like, comment, subscribe, follow us on our socials, do all the things in all the places, and let's jump into it. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about today is that supposedly for the Xbox that's coming out, which, by the way, Ray, in case you haven't noticed, in the news, they've been talking about how the next generation Xbox and PlayStation are supposed to be coming out next year. I remember before you were saying, oh, no, it's not going to be for a few more years, but it looks like it's going to be next year. With that being said, there's been a lot of talk about how Microsoft's been wanting to get out of the console business, mainly do the software side and be like kind of a Netflix of gaming. Financially, it makes sense because that way you can just make games and not have to physically produce them. You can just have them on Game Pass, or if they make a purchasing side of Game Pass, I know they have the Windows store where you can buy games that way, or the Xbox store. If they were to digitalize all of their games at the Game Pass offering and their video game library through an Xbox launcher where you can buy games that wouldn't be free on Game Pass, then technically they don't need to make an Xbox console. If both of those stores, Game Pass and the Xbox launcher for Xbox purchasable games, are available on other consoles such as the PlayStation and the Nintendo Switch, or whatever Nintendo it is. And there has been talk about, them wanting to get out of the console business. They have notoriously lost money on consoles, but recouped that through their software side. Is a software company. It's even in their name, Microsoft.
That's not the image you want.
Micro hard. Yep. They are a software company, so for them to make physical stuff is a little odd. They do make the Surface Pro, and they've attempted phones with not great success.
Phones, they did the Zune. A lot of things that didn't go over too well. If anything, Xbox is probably their biggest success hardware-wise outside of the Surface.
So with them focusing on software, there was a huge debate on whether or not they would even make another console. I think it was Phil Spencer that said, we have promised that we're going to make another console. They never commented on the longevity of their consoles, saying, we're not going anywhere. We're always going to be in the console market. He basically said they gave their word that they're going to make another console. With that being a singular part, people have been jumping all over that, saying they're only going to make another console. So since they've promised the marketplace and shareholders that they're going to make another console after this, if it still struggles against PlayStation, they might just get out of the console race entirely. When they see their software side, Game Pass and the Xbox store, doing well, but console-wise getting beaten by PlayStation, it makes sense to cut your losses. There's definitely some diehard Xbox console owners, such as yourself, and even me. I primarily play my games on an Xbox because I've got so many friends that play on an Xbox. I think just like how they're testing the waters with their handheld consoles, with partnering with the ROG Ally, this next generation, they're testing the waters again with a last-ditch effort at a Xbox console. And I think that if they suffer again, then that's probably going to be it. They're probably going to announce that they're not going to make consoles anymore. It's definitely a huge testing phase with them to see what works and what doesn't. So if they see the handheld consoles work, they may just switch to the handheld markets and produce their own handheld console without having to partner with the ROG Ally. And they might not make a physical console. They may go the Nintendo Switch route and just make a handheld console that you can dock.
I think going a couple of different possible ways, depending on how this goes. If this is supposed to be their biggest, most powerful console, could be that this console is more computer-like to where it could actually be upgradable to keep that console life extended far into the future. Or it could be that they'll see how it sells. And if it doesn't sell well, they'll maybe go with a handheld if that seems like a good option, like the Nintendo Switch. Or maybe they'll keep making consoles, but they're not going to sell this next console at a loss, I guarantee you. They're going to make their money off of it. And maybe that's what they do. Is just like they make the Surface Pros. They don't take a loss on any of those things just to get their software out there. They're making their money on them. Maybe they'll make a high-end console. They won't have to sell a huge number, but they aren't going to take a loss either. They'll still keep their brand in the market. Or they'll team up with somebody like Asus. Somebody third party will make the console. They'll just be making the UI and that kind of thing for it. And of course, that company is going to sell them for a profit. They're not going to take it a loss. So no matter how we do this, the price is going to be higher than it has been. PlayStation will do the same. They can't afford to take huge losses that Microsoft took for so many years. If everybody else's console has gone up in price, they can comfortably raise theirs to where they're not losing a bunch of money on their consoles either.
Yeah.
Like you said, either way, they're going to make money off the software, off the games that they're playing, because they have a huge number of game studios producing a lot of awesome games these next couple of years. And we'll just have to wait and see. Phil Spencer last at the game showcase said that next year is the 25th anniversary of Xbox, and they're going all out. They're going, they said, you will see our tentpole games. You're going to have Fable, you're going to have Forza, Gears, and one that's been with them since the beginning. So I assume that's probably the next Halo. I can't wait to see what that's going to be. Like I said, they haven't anything else about it, and he didn't say it specifically would be Halo. Maybe he doesn't have confidence that it'll be ready in time. That's probably what they're shooting for. And that would make sense. They're going to try to release that, I'm sure, with this next piece of hardware.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting because with the way they're positioning themselves, their next big TV entertainment system console, they're going to be competing with PlayStation. And with their Asus ROG Ally partnership, they're going to be competing with the Switch. It's going to be interesting to see how they compare with the Nintendo Switch, considering that their price is likely to be double what a Nintendo Switch costs. I hope they're taking a lot of this into consideration. I doubt they would because of their poor financial management in the past, like raising their prices of their consoles despite them being almost 6-7 years old. But yeah, there's a lot of questionable stuff going on. I don't know what benchmarks they have to determine whether something is successful or not. I don't think they should be comparing themselves to PlayStation in terms of their big block console. And I don't think they should be comparing themselves to Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch for their partnership. I would love to see both attempts flourish because competition breeds innovation. However, I think they're looking at it from a huge financial standpoint. That's evident by them partnering with the Ally rather than creating their own hardware, and by making the Game Pass and their games available on PlayStation. I think by doing all this stuff, they're kind of slowly backing away from the physical hardware and leaning more into the software side. Honestly, it's kind of interesting to picture how it's going to look in the future, to think 10 years from now, are all the video games just going to be on PCs because nobody wants to make a console anymore? There'll be like a Nintendo subscription, a PlayStation subscription, and a Game Pass subscription for Xbox, and that's how you get your games. You just have to get a computer because everyone's going to need a computer anyways. So it's going to be very interesting to see the future of video gaming.
Yeah, but it's harder to park that computer next to your TV. That's a big box.
Yeah. And honestly, that's where the handheld consoles can come into play, because that will offer that sort of flexibility. Whether you dock, you can have multiple docking stations. You can dock to a computer, you can dock to a TV, you can dock wherever you want. You only have to hook up the dock once, and then you can pinball between docks. So I definitely see a future in handheld gaming for the box consoles. I kind of see them going the way of the dinosaur.
The one thing I would really love to see in a console is for you to be able to set the console up or the dock or whatever in one room. But I would like to have some kind of a little, almost like the internet boxes that, extend the range of your Wi-Fi, but that would let me transfer that to any TV in the house. I could play the game while somebody else was using that same console to watch Netflix on one of the back TVs. That would be the most convenient thing.
I don't see that happening. To stream a 4K game, that would be a lot of Wi-Fi. Honestly, your best bet would be if you had, so like wherever you want to play the game. So like if your main places to play that handheld console, either in your personal room or in the living room, then you have a dock for those rooms. If somebody in your house wants to watch TV, they don't have to do it from the console. Just get a Fire Stick or a Roku or something. There's no need to use a video gaming console to stream Netflix.
I agree.
Potato can stream
Use for
Netflix.
that I have to admit, though, when I'm using a streaming service like Netflix, I like doing it from the console better than the Roku or a Fire Stick. Because one, the menus just work better. It's all faster. It's all quicker. Like the processors in a Fire Stick must be crap because it takes forever to scroll through stuff.
I don't mind using a Fire Stick or a Roku to stream content. For me, the only actual benefit of having a console versus a smart TV or a Roku or Fire Stick is I've noticed that only on a console can I rewind a live program. One of the things that I like, and I can feel Ray rolling his eyes right now, but I like to watch wrestling because my nephews will watch wrestling. And if we're watching a pay-per-view, they stream the pay-per-views, or not pay-per-views, PLE, Premium Live Event. They'll stream that on Peacock. When I go on the TV and I'm watching the Peacock app, you can only watch what's current, what's going on live. Whereas if I load it up on the Xbox or the PlayStation, I can view live, but I can also hit the right trigger and rewind. You can't do that with the app on the TV.
Hard for it to get back up to, because that's what it's doing. It's basically recording so far back. When you back that far up, you can see that.
Maybe that's what it is that with the Xbox, that it can rewind because it's saving its place. And as you rewind, it's like downloading the content beforehand so that you could watch it. That would make sense, but that's only a feature that I've seen on consoles. So that's the only reason why I'll watch something on a console.
All right, that's all we got for today. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Peace.